Hi everyone, Mrs. Sheridan here. I am here to tell you guys about the resources you guys can use for your argumentative writing. So the easiest way to get to these websites is if you're on the school page, you can just add a, well, you could, if I was there, you could just add a backslash and put the word resources here, and that'll get you right to the page. If you don't think you could remember that though, just if you go to PCMS, then go down to Media Center, then resources is right here. So whenever you have a research project, these are always the websites that I recommend for the different projects. I made this picture nice and big, so this is the one I recommend the most for this sort of project. It's called Issues and Controversies. So this one is specifically made for students who are doing argumentative writing, and it is made to make your life so much easier. Okay, so if you don't know your topic, I recommend scrolling down a little bit. There is this all issues by subject right here, and you can just narrow it down by, say, oh, I like computers, and oh, maybe I want to do something about artificial intelligence. Okay, but there's also the option of the search bar. So if you do know what topic you'd like, so let's say you want to do school uniforms, you can just type that in up there, and if it will go. But once you get all of your results, there's all sorts of different results, but what you're going to want to look for is one that says pro-con article right here. Okay, and the reason for that is it instantly puts it in the format that you need that is the most helpful. So it starts out with an introduction with a very short summary of supporters argue and a very short summary of opponents argue. So this will give you a brief overview. You can decide, does this seem interesting? Does it not? And so on. But you can scroll down, and here's a nice, very long article. Over here, there's a table of contents. If you want to just jump to a certain point in the article, you can do that there. And it'll give you way more information about supporters and opponents. So those supporters are people who are for school uniforms. Opponents are people who are against. I want to point out that down here at the bottom, there's also a chronology, which should be like a timeline of events, and then a by the numbers. And the by the numbers gives you some nice charts if you're needing some statistics for your article. This would be the place to go to get that. If you decide you are going to use this article in general, there is the citation button right here near the top. And make sure you choose the right one, MLA, which is what you'll be using for this project and for any language arts project, really. All right, so that is one option, issues and controversies. I forgot to mention, if you're using it here at school, you do not need a username and password. If you're at home, though, you do need a username and password, and it is on the handout that Mrs. Munnier should be giving to you, or Mrs. Craven. All right, the other database that I would recommend is this Points of View Reference Center. It has a smaller picture here. This one you can use at school with no username and password. If you're at home, you have to prove you're an Indiana resident, and unfortunately it's not just a password I can give out. It's kind of complicated. So I definitely recommend using this one just at school. Download whatever the article is so you can work on it at home. So for this one, yes, there is a search bar. However, I don't recommend using it. There's a different way of finding your topic on here that gives you a better visual result. So if you scroll down, there's Explore Topics, and this is another way that you can once again just kind of figure out what it is that you might be interested in. I'm going to choose that school uniforms again, so I'm going to go to Schools and Education, and I'm going to go down to school uniforms. So when I get to it this way, it is laid out for you in what you might need for this research paper. So we're going to start out with this overview article. This will give you a brief overview, as it implies. It also will define some key terms for you. So if there's some definitions you think you might need, that would be the place to go to get that. But then right underneath that, it has these three little sub-bars here, and one of them is for a point, and one is a counterpoint. So in this database, point means someone who is for school uniforms. Counterpoint would be someone who is against the school uniforms. Then it has other things down here, but this is the main three that you would want for this project, and that makes it very helpful right there. But I want to show you how it looks a little bit differently if you're going to use the search bar instead. So I'm just going to type in school uniforms instead and hit enter. and it's not as easy for you to use because it doesn't have that nice visual at the top with the 3 main things to click on. You're going to have to scroll through all of these results and see what you can find that might be helpful. So you can still do this, but just know that you're going to have to look a little bit harder for what you're looking for. Like here's the point, and here's the counterpoint, and so on. So let's say you find this article you want to use. Once again, you will have to cite it. So there's this little quotation mark up here. That's the cite. And then you'll want to change that to be MLA once again. And then you would copy that right here. Okay, that is the basics of both these programs. I definitely recommend using these instead of Google because it has the format that you need and you don't have to worry about if they are reliable sources or not. All right, well, good luck with your project and email me if you have questions. Bye.